Today we have two representatives from KAI Enterprises in St. Louis. They're a 100% minority-owned business enterprise in St. Louis that has 4 divisions devoted to design, build, construction services, and engineering. About 150 employees, 49, almost 50% of whom are women and minorities. And joining us are Michael Kennedy Jr., the CEO. Hello, Michael.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, and Gyasi Haynes, the director of KAI Builds, the build division of KAI.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, okay. We're going to talk about diversity, inclusion issues, and how KAI has been a leader in that. And you've really had some distinctions lately. You won the AGC of America 2021 Diversity and Inclusion Excellence Award for mid-sized contractor. And you're now the executive architect for the National Juneteenth Museum in Fort Worth, Texas. Fantastic. Tell us about, Michael, get us started on why diversity and inclusion is so important, how you at KAI have excelled in that area, and why you're being recognized for that.
Well, I think we're, why it's important to us is somewhat obvious. We are a minority-owned business. It goes into the root of who we are. My father started the firm in 1980, and the challenges and the struggles he had to go through just to get into the design and construction industry were massive. I've heard those stories. It's very hurtful to know someone you love so much has had to go through that. And what we have done is made sure that we provide those opportunities and try to open doors for folks so they don't have to go through that same experience my dad did. I feel like everybody I'm helping my dad.
Yeah,
that's
great.
And so that's really why we do it. The impact has been that everybody can get behind it. It helps the culture in our organization. You see our tagline about transforming communities. A lot of that has to be with talk about being inclusive in the communities we do the work in. We want our staff to reflect in what those communities look like. We go to some of the most politically charged, difficult communities to work in America, and we want to make sure that our staff and the people that are in that community we're working with our staff can relate to everyone that we're working and trying to help.
Okay, well, let's get Gyasi in here. What are some of the methods and tools and techniques that KAI across the board has used to bring it to attract and retain minorities and women, and what advice might you have, both of you, for other firms who are interested, whether they're minority-owned firms or women-owned firms, or just plain vanilla like most of the AEC firms that are out there?
Yeah, I would say that it's so important for our group and the Bill side to create an inclusive environment. Having a place where people feel accepted is the first start, right? So one of the things that I do with our team is we go out to schools and we speak to youth, letting them be aware of the fact that this industry is looking for them, right? We want them. I just was at Rittner High School here in St. Louis and was talking to a football team about the fact that right after high school, they can get into a trade and start making money right away. So that's one of the ways, just getting people aware of the fact that there is an opportunity for them there's something else outside of college, but there's opportunities here at KAI, right in this region, where we're doing amazing things for the communities. And we think that it's important for us to talk to the
Gyasi, what was the level of reception among the football players at that school? Did they say, "Oh, yeah, really, I'm going to come out of high school and lift a hammer," or was there interest?
No, there was. What's interesting is to see aha moments, right? Some of these kids are like, "Oh, I thought college and or being a doctor was the only option, and if I don't do that, I'm failing." So when they found out the fact that, because I came out of the trade, I started off as an electrician, and I gave them a personal experience that I had in the trade and how it's benefited me and my family. So, I can speak from a real place when I speak to them, which is accountability, right? Letting them see something that they can see themselves in, right? It's important for me to speak from a passionate place. And I think they resonated with that and they connected to that experience. And a lot of them were like, well, give me your business card and let's talk about the next steps after we're done here.
Robert, let me add on to Gyasi, from the CEO perspective, and the other CEOs listening to this, or presidents of MBE firms even, is making a bold statement that not just resonates to the outside community, but to the interior of your building, because they see you saying it outside in a mold manner. And I think that we've had articles and PR that we've put out, and we have a sister company called the Up Companies, which is our self-perform union contracting groups. So you see that here we talked about KI, our design build group, but I have spin-off sister businesses, and we put the word out in the community that we were going to create the most diverse subcontracting company that St. Louis has ever seen. Put it in the newspaper. It's hard to go. It's important for us to do those touch points in high schools and talk, because that's 101. Hey, we're going to go to this trade fair. We're going to do this. We're going to send someone out there to talk to the kids. Man, that's a lot of ground you got to cover. But who's willing to make a bold statement and put it out there that this is what I want? We're serious about it. We're going to do it. It's a challenge, but we're going to make it happen. I'll tell you, I swear that the next week, my lobby had 20 African Americans filling out job applications.
Wow.
And it was going on it was in 2000, I think it was 18 or 19 I did that. And everybody's like, hey, okay, now let's see if he really did it. And then I had even the minority advocacy groups go by our job sites and told us, we've never seen that many diverse people on job site in our life. And we're doing, $4 million self-perform scopes, $5 million self-perform scopes, $8 million self-perform scopes on the electrical, carpentry, drywall side. We were, especially when we control the entire vertical, where we're the architect, contractor, the carpenter, drywall, or electrician, and we can attack a job site with diversity. And it's design build, and it's going quick and it's going well. It's just an amazing sight to see, and the numbers that we report to the city are always well beyond the 25 or 20% requirement. We're usually hitting between 35 and 50%, depending on the size of the job.
Are the biggies coming after you to be part of large, mega scale projects?
Yes.
So that you're doing a specific piece of an airport project, or a major multi-family building, right? Gyasi, what's happening on that?
Yeah, no, we get tapped on the shoulder all the time to get included in RFPs and projects that are looking for not just a company that says they're diverse, but a company that is diverse, right? So that's one of the things Mike can talk about, the different projects that we are currently looking at and doing right now in the region and outside of this region.
Michael, tell us how this would apply, your overall effort would apply to a project like the National Juneteenth Museum, or a similar project. How do you take your concepts and put it right on the ground?
Well, the Juneteenth Museum is a design led effort, and our designers are on staff and in house, and we have a diverse team working on that. With Big, who is the lead designer, but we're the architect of record, and it's just an exciting project to be a part of. There is some surrounding development around the museum too, so they have a whole master plan for that community that's going to be able for us to take some lead components on as well. The staff is excited about it. It's energized our whole company being a part of such a significant historic project. But when you talk about, for instance, we're doing some healthcare work. We're in a joint venture with, multi-billion-dollar contractors doing, $150 million hospitals. We're working on billion-dollar programs on our program management side, on airports and large design teams. And they ask us, to lend some of our experience in creating the diversity, managing that, bringing in the staff members that will help the makeup of the team. And you asked earlier, how do you make that happen as an organization? And it's, I think it's just that it's got to come top down.
Yeah,
You can't just have a carved out component that says, hey, I want diversity, and no one else in the company really wants to, but then they don't want the diversity person to come talk to them, so
yeah,
they do the bare minimum. That's it.
yeah. This is what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah.
Are you mentoring or helping some of your larger uh, uh, partners? I know, for example, Turner, Clark, some of the real big biggies
Hmm.
have programs where they've done. I mean, Turner's been doing it for 25, 30 years. I don't know. And Clark's got a great program. They just did the KCI airport terminal and had an intense program there. But are they coming to you and saying, hey, help us out? We've got minority requirements here.
They
What are you doing?
they feel like those super big guys, they feel like they understand what they need to do. And they ask us to perform on their projects to meet requirements, but they have, be honest, they haven't necessarily asked me for advice. But anybody listening who feels like they want to attack diversity, if you talk, you have to understand the history of how it was rolled out. So diversity, people are like, man, I think I need a diversity person. Then it was
Yeah,
just the diversity department. Then it evolved into, we need diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need to have, now we have to talk about equity and inclusion. It's DEI now. But the reality is what has been branded as in the term isn't necessarily what the process should be. The process should be backwards. It's not DEI, it's IED. You need to create an inclusive environment. Then you provide and design equity programs so women and minorities feel like their compensation and career paths are equal to everyone else. Then you invite the diversity in, because what's happened before is they're like, we need diverse employees. They hire a bunch of diverse people, but the environment's not ready to accept them.
mhm,
So they see high turnover in the field. They see high turnover in the office. They don't feel welcome. They know that people feel like you're here because you're diverse, not because you're more qualified than
yeah.
my friend Jan.
I
You
didn't
know,
earn it. I didn't earn it.
you didn't earn it. And then
Yeah,
you get out in the field and you have people treating and calling names and discouraging people from wanting to stay on the job site. They're like, yeah, we got them out here, but we got them to quit. And it's like a little win for the folks who didn't want that.
yeah,
If you don't come top down and you just stick a diversity person in the office and say, hey, you're my diversity person, so I can say I have one.
yeah.
And then you go fight all the internal battles on your own. Good luck, buddy. I got to go run the company. That's never going to work.
All right.
You got to come top down and say diversity is what we're about. We're going to create an environment of that. I'm going to create a leadership team that understands and believes in that. And then we're going to create programs around that. And then and only then will we go out, seek, and recruit diverse candidates so they feel welcome, they spread the word, and then now you have a diverse, bubbling population that we have to be diverse in age. We have to be diverse in color, in gender. And then when all those things come together, your employee engagement will go through the roof.
Yeah, I
Gyasi,
like
you
that.
want to bounce off that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to bounce off of that. Absolutely. So we have to be as intentional in the construction industry. We're big on safety. We have to be as intentional about diversity and inclusion, or making an inclusive environment, as we are as making a safe environment, right?
Good point.
I think it's just so important that we focus just as hard as we do on making sure that people are not getting hurt on the job, that we have different perspectives in the field. I see it all the time in the jobs that I'm working on, that you may put a superintendent on the job who has no inclusion training, right? He doesn't know how to speak to a kid who comes from a different background because they're so used to doing it a certain way. And then that person doesn't keep that person there because that they don't feel comfortable. So it's important that we'll put a superintendent through safety training, right? We have OSHA 10 and all these different, training modules, but we need to also have training modules and perspectives that are teaching people how to create an inclusive environment that makes people feel comfortable, that's safe, and they're able to provide their best selves. I'm passionate about this, and I believe in hiring other people. This is one of the things that we do. That people that are also passionate about all people, so that everyone gets a space where they can thrive and grow in a company like KAI or any other company that's out there.
Very,
So
very
when
interesting comparison. The safety, the OSHA 30s, and so forth.
Yeah.
Where is that for DEI? It's very
right.
interesting.
So,
Gyasi.
Robert, you want me to tell a story
Go ahead.
about
Yeah, I
one of?
love
Okay,
stories.
so, so about 9 years ago, when we were first getting into the self-perform side of our business and really building that up, this collision of that commitment I made in the community that I'm going to create this big diverse workforce, and the reality of those who are already trained that I needed to bring up all of these diverse apprentices, came to a head because I was getting calls from the apprentices saying, I'm going to quit. This is rough out here. They're not treating me right. And the exact words were from one of my black female electricians was, my mama doesn't talk to me like that. Like, okay, let me get out in the field. So I went out in the field, and we were doing this. We were doing a high-rise building. I had about 25 electricians on the building. About 15 of them were apprentices, some young at this scope of the job. And there was about 3 white apprentices, but 12 black apprentices. And I had my forum and my journeymen in one room, and I had the apprentices in another room. And I asked them what was going on, and they said, they don't listen. They're talking back. They they don't understand. When I yell at them, they take.
Is this the white electrician saying
Yes,
this about
yeah,
the
yeah,
minorities? Okay,
yes.
okay, yeah,
So they're saying all of these things.
yeah,
I go to the minority workers and apprentices, and they say they're cursing at me. They're screaming. They're calling me all types of names. It doesn't make me want to do anything for them. What kind of company did you create where you want diversity, and this is how we're getting treated?
uh-huh,
So what I had to tell the journeyman and the and because they had to give on both sides. What I had to turn to the journeyman and my foreman is I said, listen, guys, we recruited these kids out of some of the roughest places in St. Louis. They've come from some of the trauma backgrounds. There's crime on their streets. They're coming to this company because they're looking for a home. That's what we sold them. Be here for life. We're going to actually give you a career plan. We're going to show you how you can thrive in this industry. And then they get here, and you guys are talking to them like this. What the heck is going on?
yeah,
And they said, what are you talking about? This is how construction's been for 100 years. It's not because they're a minority. It's not because they're black. It's because they're young and they don't know what they're doing. And this is how I came up in the industry.
mhm,
So it's not necessarily I don't like them. They said if we didn't like them and they didn't really know what they were doing and we didn't think they could learn, we would have fired them and told them not to come back. The fact that we're yelling at them and screaming at them is us loving them.
okay, yeah, tough love, huh?
And so it's tough love. But what they're used to and what our industry has been is everyone coming from the country of mid Missouri, out in the rolling hills, and their grandfather, great grandfather, their dad, their nephews, their cousins, and they're all in the construction industry, and they all go through the union,
Yeah,
and that's the family gig.
right, right,
But what's happened is you compress this labor shortage, and people have to look at untraditional places. We need bilingual supers to speak to Hispanics. We need to go to the black communities and recruit them. Now the workload has overloaded the ability of just being the family business where all the country kids come out in their pickup trucks, and they're already half trained because they've been doing it with their
yeah,
dad for 10 years.
yeah,
So these kids, I had to go to them and I said, you guys, you can't be so sensitive. You can't be so, you got to put a little thicker skin on. They're talking to you like that. And I had to explain because they care about you.
right,
They want you to learn, but this is all the only way they know how to do it. So
yeah,
I had to tell them these kids are already tough. You don't need to toughen them up like you do your cousin
mhm,
Jimmy. What you need to do is show them some love. Show them something they don't have so they can react to you.
all
What
right,
we need to do is integrate.
Gyasi's shaking his head here and looking to jump in on and build on what you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my experience, right? What he's talking about is what happened to me when I was in the field.
Mhm,
When I was an electrician, I didn't have an advocate like a Michael Kennedy or Gyasi Haynes who would step up and call everybody because this is extra work, right? We're not talking about the job. We're talking about something that has to happen to build belonging in a community, right, amongst the job site. And that once that happens, once those barriers are broken, then you can have real, true camaraderie. People coming together, saying, we may be different, but we have so much in common." So I think what Mike is basically explaining is an effort that's lost in our industry that we need to have. It's so important to have representation where someone can bring that perspective and look at it from a different lens and say, hey, I can see your side and I can see the other side. Let's come together and find a common ground so that we can move forward. Because you get stuck with a perspective, or my boss always likes to tell me in the past, my past boss would say, perception is reality, right? So until it becomes faced with reality, right? So now you're talking to that person, and that's what doesn't happen. No one is sitting down hashing out their problems on a job site. Typically, they're working on projects, and they can't get this thing done without knowing that that person is willing to do the work. Once you get that part aside, now we're just talking about personality differences. It's not that someone is upset or racist, or they just don't understand and need somebody to bring out that perspective. And that's why diversity is so important to have on a hiring panel, right? It's so important to have that person in the field. Companies should be just, like I said, they should be just as passionate about bringing in someone who has a different perspective, who's qualified. We're not just saying give somebody a handout. We're saying look for that person and have that perspective there, so that conversation is now full. Now you have this, full cycle.
I just want to ask you about the costs of doing this, and not
Oh,
just
okay.
dollar costs, but time costs and energy
Mhm.
costs on your
Mhm.
part, on Gyasi's part, and others on your staff. Is it worth it? I'm guessing it
Okay.
is. But yeah,
I'll come around. I'll come full circle. So, the last thing I'll say with those kids in the field and those foremen and journeymen is the journeymen learned how to soften up a little bit and lead with love and coaching, and the other kids understood that what tough love was. I had to explain what that was, and they both softened up a little bit, and it ended up working out great. Because if you remember Dick Vermeil, who I was watching one of his behind the legend, and Dick Vermeil was talking about coaching the Philadelphia Eagles and how he was the hardest coach in NFL and extra practices and all of that stuff. But when he really softened up and let things go, that's when he won his Super Bowl championships with, won with the Rams and took the Kansas City Chiefs. And Dick Vermeil ended up learning that, leading with love as opposed to trying to pound it out of everybody was the result. And that's what I'm trying to get my guys to understand. So the second thing is, and you don't really hear love a lot in the construction industry, but that's what we need. That's the
Oh,
missing
nice.
ingredient. Um, the As far as financial return and in time, I mean, it's just like anything else. You guys don't have to make it an extra thing. You build it into your process. This is like just like you're creating your schedule for your building. It's a process, and as you integrate it into your natural work of business, it's nothing extra. We don't have a DEI person at KAI. It's integrated in our culture and processes. Our
that's interesting.
outreach, how
Yeah,
we bid stuff, how we design packages, how we break packages up to include minorities. It's not like, oh, we got to do that now. We already designed the building. Let's break it up. We got to do it on the front end. You got to
Yeah,
do all the stuff on the.
I like to add something to that. Which what that does, it creates opportunity for somebody to walk into the door and automatically feel included. Once they see other people that look like them, that work like them, that talk like them, and then they're able to bring not just the color of their skin or the content of where they're from, but they're able to provide, hey, I'm also being listened to. I have a voice here. And folks feel comfortable working with other people who understand that, whether they be Black, white, Asian, LGBTQ. It's knowing that you have a place where you have an environment where you can be thrive. And I think what we've seen is that we are attracting people who are looking for that, who are saying this doesn't look like the rest of the industry, and we want that. And that's why KI is a great place for people to see an example. We're setting a gold standard. We're working with Target right now, and we're doing a lot of work with them, focusing on how we're touching the community. One of our goals for the next 10 years is to change the fabric of what our communities look like. So rather than focusing on profit, we're focusing on our people. We're focusing on projects that look like the people that we have within our own four walls. And
Yeah,
that's yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
we on our strategic plan, we used to have a 10-year target that was financially driven. And last year, or the beginning, right? Yeah, at the end of last year, we announced to the entire company we're changing our focus of our 10-year target to transforming 100 communities. And what does that mean to KAI? And we have a criteria document that people could submit their projects and say this project should qualify as one of the 100 projects. And then we're going to review all of those projects each year and then see how we're calculating to our goal of transforming 100 communities. So it's very, we saw the energy from the whole building, or all the buildings, because we're in Atlanta, we're in Dallas, we're in St. Louis, and we're in Kansas City. Everybody's excited about this goal.
All right, let's wrap it up there, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. I've been speaking with Michael Kennedy Jr., the CEO of KAI Enterprises, based headquartered in St. Louis, and his colleague, Director of KAI Build, Gyasi Haynes. Thanks so much for your time today. Interesting discussion. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.